as an irrevocable fact.
What is it? Om Jnanatimirandasya
Jnanandana
Shakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Just bring that chair over. Bring the chair over. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual master.
I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Right. Just simply say, I just pointed out. Bruce, thank you, our guests. Helping us on the attending the seminar we had the last 2 days on Kirtan standards. Tried to stick to what we did. Already we're sort of breaking rules and speaking about Jaya, everything, before the Kirtan. Just to go to the Maha mantra. And then the person leading the Kirtan, we're doing a bhajan, provide the lyrics. Okay, otherwise not everybody can follow. Okay, it's just common sense and that's courtesy. And if you're leading the Kirtan Guru Puja and you're introducing the Maha mantra, just stick to the one melody. Okay? Okay, so again, for the sake of new people, if they're starting to find, just learning for the first time in the truth, after 1 minute each gains the tune or the melody, then it throws them off. Tell me where we are. 7. Tell me where do we start reading?
Just 1 minute, Maharaj.
So, Maharaj, we have like 3 verses. We have 3 verses, and you can summarize, or you can choose one. So we have 5.5.25 and 5.6.9.
And that's where we start reading. 2-5.
No. Just the single verses.
Okay, just 3 verses.
Yeah.
Not a whole slew that we normally do. Okay, so we'll start with 25 then.
5.5.35.
25. 35. Thank you. Okay, Lord Rishabh's teachings. And we'll finish with one of them, maybe the last one. Okay, this is really irregular. How many people are going to be able to go through that one and spend the whole morning doing that? Okay, well, let's just go through the translation. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. O King Parikshit, just to show all your wisdom and process, Lord Rishabh, the pleasure expansion of our Lord Krishna, performed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rishabh. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently, Lord Rishabh awakened the love symptom of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approached him, such as the ability to travel around space at the speed of light, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise his powers. So that was the last verse. We're supposed to do some other verses?
Yes.
Oh,
5.6.9.
Oh, we're going to the next chapter?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we can read all the 3 first, and then.
That's what I was wondering.
Oh, so 5.6.10 is the same.
5.6.10. Okay, and we'll just all read this together. people who are lowest among men and bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord, will give up the original Varnashram Dharma and use its regulations. They will abandon bathing 3 times a day and worship the Lord, abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord. They will accept nonsensical principles, not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly. They will always remain unclean and they will pluck out their hair, following a comparative religion to flourish. During this age of Kali, people are more inclined to irreligious systems. Consequently, these people will naturally delay Vedic authority. The followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees.
5.7.5.
7. Oh, we're just zipping over to another. Number 7. The activities of King Bharat. And what verse is it again? 12. Okay. Okay, have you had that one? Yeah. Okay, together.
The most
Exalted devotee, Maharaj Bharata, in this way, engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva Krishna increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulatory duties. The hairs on his body stood on end, and all the excited bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could see anything. Thus he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he even forgot the regulated service to the Lord.
And purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Swami. Okay. When one is actually advanced in ecstatic love for Krishna, 8 transcendental blissful symptoms are manifest in the body. Those are the symptoms of perfection, arising from the loving service to the Supreme Personality of God. Since Maharaj Bharat was constantly engaged in devotional service, all the symptoms of ecstatic love were manifest in his body. Hare Krishna. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Pranamani Namaste Saraswati Bhagavani Charini Nirvishesha Shunurati Paschatya Deshakani. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So Bruce, as you can see, we went through 3 verses. We're covering a lot of territory, but the link between these 3 is we're talking first of all about Nirishad Dev, and apparently he manifested a lot of the qualities of Narada Muni. Everyone likes Narada Muni, right? Yeah. He's a pretty cool sadhu, and he was able to travel to do interplanetary travel. He could appear here, he could appear there. He's, from our point of view, like, ISKCON, Kodima point of view, he's quite an incredible teacher. He had lots of students, and he always loved to go and make presentations. They should be brief, to the point, succinct, not too long, not too elaborate, but he would just make his point and then zip away. And one of the reasons is because he was cursed. He was cursed by Daksha. He was cursed by Daksha because Narada Muni came into Daksha's domain, and Daksha was one of the progenitors. He fathered many children, and the boys went to a special school like Gurukul to learn about the science of life and other activities. Narada Muni would come in, and when his father wasn't around, I'm not sure what his father was doing, probably making more babies, but Narada Muni would convince the boys to not get married. Okay? And it was the mandate of Daksha to populate the world. That's his job. as a progenitor. Now you get a sadhu coming along and says, I don't think we need babies here. I think we need to get self-realized. We need to get liberated from this world. So Daksha would come around and he'd see all his sons who had a different kind of mentality, and maybe even slightly fanatical, or at least according to him, it would be that way. And they were all committed to celibacy for life. And that's not what he had in mind. So this happened. There were two batches of sons like that. Batch, like a batch of cookies. When we say batch, it was a batch of cookies. So batch of children, sons, and they all decided, Dad, we're not going to get married. We're not going to have children. And that is similar to the story of the Kumaras. They also decided with Brahma, and he got very angry. Angry to the point where, when you get angry, you get something happens here. You ever experienced that before? With the third eye area? Yeah, you should get into. So out from this third eye district, popped out a little kid. And he was dark in color. He was like the color of Krishna to some degree, like a dark rain cloud. It was a little baby. Not a little baby, it was Rudra. Rudra means anger. So Shiva, or Rudradev, came as a result of Brahma's anger. That's the story of how he was born. If you want to go, address far out or far-fetched stories, we've got them all here. They're here. Okay, so now let's get back to Daksha. Daksha decided, I just don't want this guy around anymore. This Narada Muni, he's just spoiling all my project, which is to populate the world. I'm going to curse him so that he can never stay long enough to really give a strong seminar. Let's put it like that. Seminar. So it just so happened that Narada Muni was cursed from that point on to never be anywhere for a long time. He had to move on. And Prabhupada expressed that I've been cursed too. I keep moving. I was in the 70s, and I keep traveling, I keep moving. And I'm cursed by the parents of my disciples who don't like the work that I'm doing. Do you remember? Do you know that? That's what he explained in the Bhagavatam. What do you think about that? It's interesting. Prabhupada is under curse by the parents of his disciples to not stay anywhere too long. And when Prabhupada came here, which was twice in Toronto, in 75 and 76, and his intent was to stay maybe 5 days, but when he came in 75, his visit was cut a little bit short because he had to leave Canada to go to India because they had arranged a personal meeting with Indira Gandhi, and Prabhupada met her. He wrote down the 9 points that what he wanted to discuss with her, and one of them was help our students with their visas, especially the American Canadian kids, his disciples. They were having some visa problems. And at that meeting, I know I'm trailing off a little bit, but I can't, I'm so tempted. She was not in the best of spirit. There was a lot of threats on her life. So she was not in the best of moods, But Prabhupada put forth his requests. And but that was one of them. Okay. So he was here and his visit was cut short, and he stopped quickly for about 6 hours in Montreal, and from Montreal went back to India. Hare Krishna. But he came back later, the next year. Okay, now let's get back to the story of the Narada Muni coming in, going up, disappearing, and appearing. Same kind of qualities are there in Rishabdev. He's the subject of our discussions. Rishabdev was a rishi. He was very detached from the world. He was like a vairagi. And as we discussed the other days, he didn't go to the men's clothing store, if you know what I mean. He just didn't. He didn't go to buy anything. And any offers towards garments. He rejected. He just wore the elements. That's how detached he was from this world. And he also illustrated some Baba, ecstasy, symptoms of ecstatic joy. And that is not very common. And we don't hear or read about it too much. In our lineage, we hear about Madhavendra Puri, who demonstrated symptoms of ecstasy. Does anybody know who Madhavendra Puri is? He's kind of like our patron saint. He's the one that discovered Gopal Gopinath and Gopal, two devis. And we're having a sweet rice festival soon, right? It's in his honor that we're doing this. He was the one to sort of ignite this idea of Baba in our lineage in more recent times, to show ecstasies. Those ecstasies can range from, being discolored to, shivering to, being in any kind of symptom of ecstasy, which would be classified a little bit abnormal or maybe even transcendental. Rishabdev is one of those persons who illustrated that. Now, to tie in the story, the chapter we're on now, the activities of King Bharat is that Bharat, and then chapter 8, he was one of the sons of Rishabdev. And he's noted for being the king of the world. This planet is called Bhumi. It's also called Bharat. In fact, the current Prime Minister in India wants to go back to calling India Bharat. He might be successful. I personally like to say Bharat better. In fact, when you say India, it's kind of confusing. When I went to one Rath Yatra in Saskatoon a few years ago in the summer, the local indigenous people were invited, and one of the chiefs of that area, he came with a suit and a tie and everything, and he also had a total, like the headgear of all the feathers like this, and he was asked to come to speak at the microphone, and they said, so this is the festival of India. Well, they used to call us Indians. And everybody laughed. So the name applies to different kind of people. And here's another interesting story. I found this out from our Indian friends, mostly Hindus, on the East Coast. And they said in Newfoundland, or was it no, it was Cape Breton. There were new immigrants there from India, and many of them were teachers. They were professionals. They said, let us celebrate the new year. Let us celebrate Diwali. And they made a big promotion about it. They said, so all Indians can come and celebrate the new year together. Come and bring your friends and your family, and we will celebrate. There weren't a lot of new immigrants from India at the time. But you know what happened? All the local Micmac people came. They're Indians. And they came with their feathers, and they came with their drums and everything. And so it was kind of like a merge or a fusion of people from India and people who were called Indians. We don't call them Indians anymore, but just to make it a little more clear. And Prabhupada used to refer to people, the Red Indians. And something to do with Christopher Columbus, he discovered the Red Indians. Well, who discovered it? That's another point of contention. Did he really discover them? They were already there for 10,000 years. But everything's referenced according to what a European sees. So he discovered America. Well, America was already there. And the people who lived there were also already there. So what are you discovering? Now, it's been known that he was a little bit of a rascal. Some people don't even like Christopher Columbus Day in America, so change it. We don't. Okay, so Bharat was a very detached person. We were just reading here how he was very committed Dasra. Okay. So Dasra, he gets into the crowds, the multitudes, and he said, I have been serving you all as your Maharaj for 60,000 years. Okay, when people lived long in those days, 60,000 years might be our 60-year equivalent if somebody lives that long. How long was Queen Elizabeth with us? She got, her coronation was, okay, 52, and she reigned all this time. Nikhil. How are you, Nikhil? Thank you. And I was supposed to get back to you, and I didn't. I'm cursed. Okay. I'm saying I'm cursed. Nikhil, I'm just giving a class right now in front of the brightest students here in Toronto. Okay. And they just want to say Hari Bol to you. 1, 2, 3.
Hari Bol!
Nikhil, you have to come and visit us one time soon. Okay. So about 9 o'clock, would that work? 9? 1 hour? Thank you. Okay, thank you. It's from Halifax. Sorry about that, Bruce. But I think it gets people excited when they hear from one of you. Okay, now, like the famous line in The Age of Kali, when Madness says he gets all the riled up. Now, where was I? And why? And why? Okay, Queen Elizabeth. Thank you. 52 to 2022.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
23. Okay. How many years is that?
96.
She was 96, but she ruled for
Yeah, we're talking about how long she ruled for. So 52. 1952.
72 years.
Yeah, so that would be kind of like the equivalent. Of course, many people have said she should have just moved along another 70 minutes. Anyways, controversial. Okay, so now we're looking for somebody who's very industrial who decided to resign. Or, you know, I've lived here. And now my son is able. We had 4 sons. Ram was quite equipped and very competent. So he decided, so tomorrow, under the Pusha star, Ram will be king. And everyone goes, hey, it's like the best of time. Everyone was very happy except for one person. Remember who that was?
Mantra.
Mantra.
She was,
Crooked.
yeah,
Wicked.
hunchback.
Yeah.
And her brain was kind of here, you know. So a very gripping scene if you read about it, how she was conniving and cunning, but if it wasn't for her, Ram wouldn't be exiled to the Dandakaranya forest, and he wouldn't have met with the Rakshasas. And Ravana was eliminated by Ram, so maybe Mantra, he did a good thing after all. Okay. So you all know the story, it's wonderful. Yeah. So Bharat, he followed in the tradition of after you rule for a while, get out of the way, let a new gen come in, and take to renounce life. In other words, leave your fancy wardrobe behind, your throne, your crown, the mukuts, everything, and just walk away. And wear a loincloth, you know. So, and that's it. And depend on whatever comes of its own accord. That's sort of kind of like the sannyas spirit. So you're a Maharaj, you have everything, now you're settling for almost nothing. So it's quite honorable, and that was the standard practice with Kshatriyas, to be like practically like a sannyasi, and at least be vanaprast. You know, vanaprast means live in the vana, live in the forest. That's what he did. The famous story about Bharat involves a
Dear.
deer, and this deer, here's the story, and we demonstrated it once. We had in Mayapur, we put the play on, and we had these big massive puppets, you know, like a deer he's meditating. Bharat is a great meditator. And while he was meditating, he saw this deer giving birth to a fawn. And then his eye caught something else. It was a lion. A lion. He had this, had a keen sense of smell. And he had his eye on whatever he can get, the baby or the deer. So he was going after that, creeping, I guess you call it stalking. And while Bharat was seeing all of this, it kind of in horror, the deer, the doe, we call it doe, a deer, a female deer. And she got taken by the lion. But the little baby that was just newly born, she survived. Bharat took that baby and nursed it to health, brought it to like a full adult form. Bharat he tried to continue with his sadhana, his meditations, and it was very difficult for him. He would sit in the lotus position like this, and the little deer, the cute little deer, and deer are cute, aren't they? They're absolutely adorable. I think but the ticks that they carry sometimes kind of ruins their reputation. Maybe they didn't have them in those days, Sita Devi, she was taken by a deer with golden spots, not white spots, with golden spots. And she wanted to have the deer. She was very obsessed with the idea. So, the deer would come, and with this moist nose, sort of rub against his thigh while he's meditating, and it would just break his meditation, and he would just kind of go to fondle the deer, and this way he just was so absorbed. His meditation went from Bhagavan to deer, and in this way he kind of lost a status. And he was also quite advanced spiritually, but it's possible that even if you reach a high plateau, it's possible to actually come to fall. It does happen. The good thing about even if you fall, there's always a cushion, and that cushion is the whole culture all around you. There's spirituality everywhere, all around. There is puja going on. There's mantras going on. Everyone's name is the name of Bhagavan, the name of God. So these are all work in one's favor if you happen to lose it or you fall from grace. It's possible that you can regain grace. Usually it comes by the workings of Paramatma. Usually it happens because devotees come, intervene. Devotees are like God in that way. Yeah, so Bharat kind of lost it, and during a storm, the deer got very frightened, and he also got injured, he fell, and the deer came to him and he died. I'm talking about the king, he died. He passed away, and while he was passing away, he was thinking of the deer. So in the next life, he became a deer. But he was an ordinary deer. He took birth up in the Himalayas, and he didn't mingle with other deer. He hung around in what's called the Pulaha ashram. It's an ashram for monks. He hung around with him. He was just so attracted to their environment, the spiritual environment. And so that's what took place. He became a deer, but he could remember the Lord. That the Lord was on his mind, like a carryover from a previous life. Then in the third life, he took birth as a part, a Jada part. Jada referring to slow. Somebody who's kind of slow. He wasn't really slow, but he externally demonstrated slowness, but not being sharp. And, but actually in his mind, in his heart, there was the Lord. He was big-bodied, and there's beautiful details given about his life. His parents were very loving and devoted. Both mom and dad died. And then he got adopted by another group of parents, and they were not so good. They're kind of a little bit of a crazy son. So a dysfunctional family, you can say. Anyways, there came a time when he grew up, and he was, because he had a big body, thought he could work, and he needed a job to sustain himself. So one farmer hired him to look after the crops because wild pigs would come in and disturb, the fields, eat, turn all the soil over. So he was hired for that. Another occasion, because he was big in size, there were a bunch of dacoits, and they decided that they needed him as a specimen to be offered to the goddess Kali. In some remote places in India, human sacrifice was accepted. So they thought, here is a good specimen for the goddess. So these dacoits decided to take him and put him on the sacrificial altar of the goddess and get her mercy, her benedictions. Hare Krishna. And so what happened was, because he was such a good devotee, and Goddess Kali is ultimately a great devotee of Vishnu. So when they were going to decide to slay him or sacrifice him to the goddess broke open. She became multi-form. She became many goddesses. One became many. And she went and attacked all these dacoits. So it was like a bloody ordeal. It was a bloody ordeal. And so she was protecting her son, you can say. Jadabai. He was so grateful. Okay, so anyways, he always seemed to people like he was a dull fellow, a dullard. Then one day the king, at the time, King Rahugana, needed to be taken from one place to another in a palanquin. Everyone knows what a palanquin is. It doesn't sound like that. And again, some of the king's people were looking for a strong guy who would help lift the palanquin. So they found him, Chedabharat, and he's a very sensitive person. So anyways, the journey began, and he was looking at all these ants, and he was trying to avoid them, while carrying the palanquin. Probably it was with one of these. You either go like this, or the other guy goes like that, and there's 4 people, right? As opposed to one for. So the king was having a very unpleasant ride, and he was frustrated because Jadabai was, just trying to work. He wasn't doing his job correctly. So the king demanded, stop this now. Stop this immediately. And who's responsible for this unsteady, seva? So everyone was pointing to each other, but he's not me. So they felt very threatened by the king. And the king started to talk to each other about it. He said, why are you doing this? And you do your job correctly. Just remember, I'm the master and you are the servant. So you do what I say. So then Jadabai very, craftily, he said, well, in this life, you were the master and I'm the servant. But in the next life, I may be the master and you will be the servant. And that, King Rahugana didn't like that at all. But what it did do, it sparked a beautiful conversation between the 2 King Rahugana, after listening to this, what seemed to be a dull person, all this brilliance came out from here. And he realized this is just a saint. Because Vedic kings, they always recognize saintliness. You know? And so he considered, here is somebody who's really special, and I bowed down to meet this great soul. The king took a humble position. So anyways, those are the little storylines that was suggested. I talk a little bit about some of these personalities. And there they are. Sorry if I had to put Queen Elizabeth in there, but just to give you a reference point. It is now 8:15, and what we are supposed to get out of this is a few lessons come from this. Even if you commit an abomination, even if you go wrong, you can be rightly situated. Abhichit Sundarachana. Ashmimam Anayimam. You can look that up in the Bhagavad Gita. Abhichit. Abhichit Sundarachana. Everyone's got a phone, right? I thought everyone did. Abhichit Sundarachana. You have to look at that. Yeah. It's relevant. It simply means that even if you do something that's wrong, you can become rightly situated. It's usually an attitude. Your attitude hasn't changed. You have to feel sorry about what you've done. You have to feel a kind of a guilt. This must be a guilt complex. Otherwise, you won't change. So if we want Krishna's grace, Krishna's mercy, then we have to have the feeling of remorse and regret, right? And then it's possible to be reinstated. So this is what happened in the case of Bharat, King Bharat, who then became the king, and then the third type, Jadavana, he got reinstated. He always maintained a certain level of spirituality, even though it's considered that he was more attached to his pet than to God. That's considered to be a no-no, a taboo. And we're not against pets, by the way. Pets are used, animals are used as like therapy. A lot of people, our Montreal Temple's farm, we have a ranch just 25 minutes away from the temple outside the city, and they have horses. And people from the city go there, they pay a lot of money for therapy, to spend time with the animals. This is really effective, especially for older folks, and people are a little lonely, and there's a lot of those kind of people around them. Okay, so we're not against animals. It's just don't forget God. Don't replace God with a pet. Okay? Hare Krishna. A lot more lessons there, but we got to leave some period for your questions for Bruce. All right. So, Hare Krishna. Anybody have any comments? Cece.
Maharaj ji.
What? Oh, you want to look at that? Okay. It was really for your reference, but okay. So let's do that quickly then. Translation. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. So as long as you show Dhrida Bharata, determination, and you're determined to be a changed person, then you can be reinstated. On the other hand, if you just bring in the nonsense and stay a rascal, then it just means you don't care. And God's not going to. Krishna will give you the mercy that you're thinking you're going to get. All right? So take note of that verse. It's a good one to learn. Really it is. So we have to be forgiving if someone has done quite well in devotion and then something happens in their life. They might even seem to snap somewhere. We just have to remember that if they come back with a good attitude, I'm sorry about what I did, and I want to make it up, I'm fully engaged in service. We have to take that into serious consideration. All right? You're going to meet people like that. You're going to fall away. Some circumstance happens. It does happen. And you don't want to be cursed. But you can't curse others, because what if that happens to you? You want people to be forgiving, right? Okay, good.
Yes, Maharaj, I have two questions. First one, in the verse 5.5.35, it was mentioned Maharaj Rishabh, because of his transcendental love for God, he got all the mystic powers.
Yes.
So those who have that pure devotional attitude, do they have mystic powers automatically?
They can. It may not be necessary. It just means when you become very pure, you are very empowered. Krishna Shakti, you have a lot of Krishna Shakti, so you can do extraordinary things. On one hand, you can say that Prabhupada had mystic powers. But does anybody know how he would explain that? That he had mystic powers? Can you give a guess? Did he wave a magic wand? Yeah.
Mistake power to change like demonic people to devotees.
Right. Very good. That's great. Very excellent. So in other words, Prabhupada would speak in Mumbai, places like that, at a Pambal program, and somebody actually challenged him once. Can you show some mystic powers? And Prabhupada said, yes. These boys and girls, formerly they were woman hunters, they were drunkards, they were and taking intoxication, eating animals, cows, and all this stuff. Formerly, but now they become pure devotees. So that is my mystic power. Right? So it is for a person to change their whole, demeanor, their whole lifestyle, from being bad to good. That's quite mystical, isn't it? That's better than what any illusionist could do for us, or any magician. Right? So that is amazing. And in fact, that was Prabhupada's strategy. I make some Westernist devotees, they'll come back to India. He wanted them to come back to India and wear suits and ties and all, which they did in the beginning. And he was thinking, see, you've got a great culture. Speaking of India, you've got a great culture. Look at even Westerners are taking it up. And they're giving up bad habits. So that's why they had such big turnouts. There's a book there by Swami, Dancing White Elephants. That's what they were called. There were people like Malachi and Shamus. And people came to look at the white folks who were chanting Hare Krishna. It was so amazing. How is this possible? And so many regiments, or let's say, so many other empires came in to try to oppress Vedic culture in India. And to some degree they did, but they never squelched it completely. The oldest culture, oldest religion in the world is Hinduism or Vedic culture, right? So it's, even though there were attempts made to oppress it, still is there. Okay, so anyways, the question is...
The second question is...
You have a second one?
Yes.
Does anybody else want before? Any more questions? Just to be fair. No? Okay, great. We are knowing everything. Okay, go ahead.
Maharajji, Bharat Maharaj's love for Hiran was just like selfless love. There was nothing.
Which Maharaj?
Bharat's love for Hiran was a selfless love, and he did not want anything in return.
Yeah.
Even that kind of love could lead you to such kind of birth, where you just have to take an animal form.
Is it a comment or?
No, I'm just asking. Like, the love was very selfless, and still he was born as a Hiran in his next life. Deer, sorry.
Yeah, I was, yeah. Arab?
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
Very different species there, by the way.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, because the point is that one can slip, one can make mistakes. Even the Guru Maharaj had reached a high level of bhakti, but he also slipped. He got, I think, whatever was teeming inside of him, that he kept it sort of, at bay, but now it flared up again.
But there was anger. Here it is love, selfless love.
Yeah, but through affection for a deer, like he substituted Krishna for this animal. It's meant to do with the animal. This animal didn't happen to be an avatar.
And this animal was also sent by Krishna.
That might be. Anger is also sent by Krishna. Lust is sent by Krishna. Greed is sent by Krishna. So if you entertain it, then we got to get entangled. The whole idea is to get disentangled, right? So it can happen. Circumstances. Yes.
So Maharaj Bharat fell down from his position. He was a pure devotee, he renounced everything and he was, meditating, and then he fell down.
Yeah.
So even if a devotee like that falls down, then it is like he takes a few birds to, gain that position and then go back.
It's
to
all
God.
individual.
Yeah.
Is that a question?
Like,
Does it take a few birds?
Yeah, or is it possible to go back to Godhead in the same life?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. In fact, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj talks specifically in the story of Dhruva. He was talking about how determined this boy was after 6 months. He achieved such a high status. So the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj makes a point where he says it is possible that in one life you can achieve liberation. But everyone's got a different karma and different destination. So you don't really know what's going to happen. But one thing you do know is you have your codes of law, you have your prescribed duties, you have your dharma. Stick to that and you're safe. What will come out of it all, when you will get liberation, we don't really know. I don't think anybody's going to come like a prophetic voice in this country. In the year 2096, you will be a liberated soul. The demigods will come down swiftly. There's no way of knowing. There's just no way. The only thing that is sure is your dharma. Right? Just like they have a saying, there's two things that are for sure in this world. Death and taxes. Right? So that's what everyone, that's the reality of it. Death and taxes. But from our end, the only thing that is a surety for my person is my service. My prescribed duty. My dharma, the codes I must follow. That is for sure. That onus is on you to make sure it happens. Somebody else had a question here.
So since that you show as Maya to disciple Maharaj, so Prabhupada in one of his purport mentioned we have to be servant of Krishna, not the servant of Maya. But Maya is a servant of Maya is also a servant of Krishna.
That's right.
And we say we are the servant of the servant.
Yes. That's right. But you have to choose who you're serving. So, just like say, some people you don't get along with, the chemistry isn't very good. So you decide, I'm not gonna, that person's a devotee, but we just don't get along. So it's not a good mix, so you don't have to. You have to be a little picky and choosy. It's called Buddhi Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. You have to be a little bit wise about the choices you make, who you associate with. Right. There's some people right wing and there's left wing. The gopis, there's left and right wing. Gopis, they don't seem to get along with each other. They don't jive, but they both sides love Krishna. Is that okay? Yes, Karan. not recommended. Prabhupada even used the word hallucination. He said hallucination. In other words, taking off on your own spiritual course without sangha. He said it's a hallucination. He says, you're just dreaming. A lot of people do that. Dream, 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 dream. I love you so. Most people are just dreamers. So let's get off the dreaming platform, and that's kind of like where a lot of people. There seems to be a strong song out there. You know? I have a dream, and I should just fulfill my dream. Yeah, but does your dream include other people? Is it just about you? You realize for your dream to be fulfilled, it requires the help of others. You can't do anything on your own. So I don't personally buy into this kind of, culture, that sort of individualism, but which is really impersonalism. You have a dream, fulfill your dream. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it all by myself. Have you ever heard those kind of messages?
No.
It's nonsense. Because you're just setting yourself up for being alone, isolated from the world. You're just going to be vulnerable to other people who just want to control you. That's all. The strength lies in family and community and that kind of association. All this thing about dreams, bunch of crap. That's all I can say. It leads people to wrong places. That strong motto with I don't think it's helping a lot of people.
It's kind of soul depleting, individual.
Soul?
Depleting.
Yeah, sure. That's a nice way to put the soul. Okay, we've gone over our time. Venkatesh just walked in. I think he's got a message. You have a message?
Sorry, I don't have any.
Okay. So you worked out the weekend program?
So weekend program, we all are starting from here. So we all are starting on Sunday